Our first story is out of Bloomberg 2 days ago. Workers press for power in a rare advance for the U.S. labor movement. Basically, on October 12th, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics has released that 4.3 million people quit their jobs in just the month of August. That's just about 3% of the entire workforce. So
Well, we
what's
also
going
know that in April, I think it was about 4 million people who quit as well.
right? So what we all know about the Great Resignation is now morphing into what the internet is dubbing Striketober, right? There's labor unions
New
are
term,
organized.
huh?
So you're seeing a shifting in the power structure, obviously. What is
Right.
going on? Why do you think that's happening?
Well, I think that trend, that shift was always somewhat going to be happening, but in light of the pandemic, right, it just accelerated this movement. A lot of people are now recognizing that they haven't fully feel happy, fulfilled. Many have been overworked in light of the different dynamics. We've read that. We've seen a lot of reports of people feeling completely burned out, feeling as if they are not really able to operate at their best, and going through this evaluation of whether or not where they are right now is the best fit for their skills or capabilities and really their life in order to create that level of acceleration, potential, balance, whatever their goals are, because it's not actually just sort of a narrow goal anymore, but they're kind of coming to terms and understanding, is this really the best fit for me and what I need?
So what does this mean at the executive level? What do these CEOs do knowing now that the power is shifting?
They have to get back to understanding who their target audience is. It's that individual. What are they struggling with? Why are they struggling with it? Where can they best determine ways to come up with a sort of mutually beneficial outcome versus an expectation that they need to conform and assimilate to the environment that the leadership feels is best, because that's what they've been used to working in, is one where it is everyone's in the office, everybody needs to be seen, everybody needs to kind of have everything being face to face. The world of work has changed. You have a different set of workers too now, where they grew up in a digitally first environment. They are used to being able to do things more efficiently, just whether it is on Slack or through Zoom or email or text, what have you. But there are different modes of operating now that are different than they were 10, 15 years ago. And to force people to fit into the way that a leader is used to working is just, it's not going to work out.
So while the pandemic has clearly impacted what the employees expect, COVID's also altered the employer's needs. What's changed on behalf of the CEO's level in terms of skills and expectations from their employees? So in other words, we're getting at Wiley Education Services has a survey out. They interviewed business leaders. 55% of executive leaders believe there's a skills gap within their organization. So they think it's as simple as just upskilling their people, sending them back to class. But I believe that to your point, it's a different worker, if you will, and a different environment. Any thoughts?
100% agree. Well, conversations that you and I have had is that the soft skills are now even so much more important than the hard skills, because hard skills are so easy to acquire, or at least the perception. Some people may disagree that it's easy to acquire, but the perception and the ability for today's workers to go online and get training across anything that they have a possible interest in is possible. So they can become pretty adept in going off on their own, taking courses on web design, web development, digital marketing, what have you. But there is a understanding now among the workforce that they can go find the resources needed in different ways to acquire all those hard skills. But as we all know, to really develop and grow into a professional who can contribute and to deliver the most impact possible, it's more than just the hard skills. It requires them to have those important soft skills like communication, like empathy, like problem solving, creativity. All of those things are so critically important now to be able to adjust and adapt and think differently in this new world. And that's not something that you can necessarily learn by watching a video. And so going forward, you have to really look at have a 360-degree view of what's going to be needed to help an individual be successful and enable them to grow. And many people may not be aware that there's really these two sides that you need.
I would add to that also that these skills, both hard and soft, needed now have to go through this digital medium, right? You've got the digitization that comes off the back of remote and hybrid work environments. It's a different type of skill in both categories.
Absolutely. And that's something that you've been a leader and expert in, is really understanding how to leverage these digital forms of communication to build effective relationships such that everybody can commonly get on the same page, create alignment. There's a level of understanding so that the plans and programs can effectively move forward and reach those goals. But until there is that level of understanding between the parties, that you have to build that rapport. It all starts with again, that relationship. It's going to be difficult to be able to get everybody together and working towards the same goals.
So the Bloomberg article from this week compared this era to that of just after World War II. 1945, there were a series of massive strikes that eventually all the grievances from the workers who kind of buckled down to get us through the war, and they wanted now to be compensated. They wanted all the worker reforms that happened after that. That seems to be happening now. Does this resolve in the same manner? I know no one knows this, but in your opinion, do you think that is this a flash in the pan, or is the workers taking the upper hand, if you will, in the conversation with their employers? Is this a permanent change?
I think that this is going to be a permanent shift in the worker taking control over their destiny, for a lack of a better term. With the fundamental shifts that technology has enabled, today's worker has a level of optionality that didn't exist before. As an example, you're seeing the growth in the creator economy. You're seeing folks that are young who realize that if they have this wonderful community of followers, they can go and have the opportunity to start monetizing and build their own business. So that entrepreneurial path is an avenue that they could take from day one and don't necessarily have to look at the traditional ways of employment to ultimately create a living that best fits them. So I continue to see this shift from an employer market to an employee market, because technology has given individuals a level of power, control, flexibility, adaptability to navigate this new professional world in a very different way. And they're very much willing and able to test, learn, experiment, and see what fits. And it may be a combination of things. And they may flow in and out of traditional employment, but at the same time, they also may be exploring ways to monetize different avenues that are really just about their own brand. So what employers need to realize is that you may have a great worker, but it's not that they may not be thinking of new opportunities for them at any point in time. So much of this is making sure that there is this mutual value exchange, which you and I have always talked about from the beginning, that both parties feel like they are growing together. And that's not always easy, but it does come down to understanding what each party really needs to be successful.
It sounds like it demands culture change from a lot of these companies, in my opinion.
Yes, you and I have talked about too, that culture has been such an important part of an individual feeling like they can accelerate. Right. And culture has been such a part of the discussion for years, but it's still an issue. Nobody's really solved the cultural problem. It's not going to be something that's easily solved. But when you bring everybody together to have that important discussion, say, what do you feel is necessary to create that right culture so you feel fundamentally supported, because people want to feel like they have a true partnership with their employer, the bosses, the peers, their subordinates, whatever it may be, but people want to feel like they have somebody who cares at the end of the day. It doesn't seem like a lot to ask, but it's not always so simple. So it's about everybody coming together to figure out what that looks like. And it's going to be very different for every company.